Have you ever really stopped to think about what you're going to leave behind? I'm not talking about money or a house, but a real lasting impact. Well, today we're digging into a powerful analysis that uses the metaphor of a simple tree to ask that exact question. And believe me, the answer is pretty surprising. So, this is the question at the absolute heart of it all. What is your legacy going to be? The sermon we're looking at today has a really clear perspective. It's not about what you have, it's about what you give. It all comes down to the fruit you produce for other people. Okay, here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll nail down what a fruitful legacy even means. Then, we're going to jump into the main story about a fruitless fig tree, pull out 3 really important warnings from it, and then we'll finish up with a hopeful twist that kind of flips the whole thing on its head. So first up, the legacy question. Right off the bat, this analysis just challenges our whole idea of what a legacy is. It basically says, hey, forget about the bank accounts and the job titles for a minute. Let's talk about the actual tangible good you're doing for other people. And here is the core idea, and it's so simple, it's actually kind of profound. A tree never eats its own fruit, right? Fruit is made for others. And that is the definition of a fruitful legacy. It's a life that contributes more than it takes, a life that actively nourishes the people around you. So how does this sermon actually illustrate this? Well, it uses this ancient story about Jesus and a fig tree. And this isn't just some dusty old parable. It's a really sharp metaphor for a life that, looks fantastic on the outside, but is totally empty underneath. Okay, this is the key moment in the story. Jesus sees this fig tree, and from far away it looks amazing. It's just covered in these beautiful, lush green leaves. But when he gets up close, there's nothing. No fruit. It has all the signs of being alive, but it isn't actually producing anything for anyone else. Now, this is where the breakdown gets really interesting. On one hand, you have the leaves. They benefit the tree itself, right? That's its own survival. But fruit benefits everyone else. And the sermon points out that leaves can also be used to hide things, to cover up something that's broken or empty. Fruit, on the other hand, nourishes. So it's this great contrast between just looking out for yourself and actually contributing to others. So what do we do with this? How does this apply to us? Well, the sermon pulls out 3 very direct warnings from this story, 3 things to watch out for so we don't just become all leaves and no fruit in our own lives. And here they are, super simple and direct. Number 1, don't just display, focusing only on your image. Number 2, don't just deplete, taking resources without giving anything back. And number 3, don't just delay, putting off making an impact. Let's just zoom in on that second warning for a second. Don't just deplete. This is where the analysis gets really sharp, I think. It makes the case that being fruitless isn't a neutral thing. It's actually a net negative. Because you're still taking up space, you're still using resources, but you're not contributing anything back into the system. And to really drive this point home, check this out. The sermon actually did the math. 1 unproductive fig tree can slurp up 54,000 liters of water over 3 years. Now, to put that in perspective, that's enough water for a single person to survive on for, get this, 75 years. That is the hidden cost of being fruitless. And this brings us to that final warning. Don't just delay. See, in the story, the tree actually gets a second chance. It gets 1 more year to try and produce fruit. But here's the urgent takeaway for us. That tree got a deadline. We don't. We're never guaranteed that luxury, which means the time to start producing our fruit is right now. But it's not all just warnings and deadlines. In this last section, the sermon does something really cool. It takes this symbol of failure, that fruitless fig tree, and it completely transforms it into a symbol of hope and new purpose. This whole shift comes from a totally different story about a guy named Nathaniel. Jesus just says this one line to him, "I saw you when you were under the fig tree," and it absolutely floors Nathaniel. You gotta wonder, why? What was happening under that fig tree? The sermon suggests it was a really private moment, maybe a moment of deep struggle or doubt. So the thinking is, for Nathaniel, that fig tree wasn't a place of failure. It was a place of private struggle. And by seeing him there, Jesus was basically saying, I see you. I see your doubts, I see your questions, and all of a sudden, the fig tree isn't just a warning anymore. It's a symbol of hope, the very spot where your new, fruitful life can actually begin. And so, we land right back where we started, but now we're looking at it through a completely new lens. This whole analysis leaves us with one final challenge. And it's not asking for some huge, life-altering plan. It's asking about the small stuff. So the real question for you, for me, for all of us is this: what's one piece of fruit you can start producing today?